and incredible places all over the world. My dad would photograph for companies like National Geographic, so I'd find myself waking up going down the Amazon River in search of a lost tribe, or at Everest Base Camp going to school with the Sherpa children, or here in, home sweet Hawaii, building a wild off the grid, like Dora the Explorer style jungle lodge. And it really gave me an appreciation of nature, not just because it's beautiful, but it was instrumental in our survival. If you didn't catch fish from the sea, if you didn't pick fruit from the land, if you didn't have a shelter, or you weren't in tune with the elements, you could get caught in snowstorms, you could starve, you could have a lot of insane survival experiences. So to me, I learned to protect what offers us life and what offers us existence, in those kind of tribal cultures growing up. And so when I found KINDOM, it was really exciting because I usually don't wear clothes. I was the first to do Naked and Afraid, so go figure. I'm not usually out there in the fashion world going, woo, what am I going to wear today? I'm throwing on a bikini or, my coconut bra and journeying out into the wilderness. I made this, or my coconut hat, and, really actually living sustainably, but not trying to do it as a fad. Just that was, what all we had to deal with at that time. And so when I went coconut down, when I met you all, it was really fun to know that there can be a way to actually wear clothing, not have to be naked, and be able to do my TED Talks and go on, the biggest talk shows on earth, or TV shows, or, award shows, and actually feel proud to wear something and to represent something that is slow fashion, is also benefiting these cultures that I grew up in, whether it's girl power,
Yes.
in the women weaving and making things, or whether it's made out of sustainable materials. So that's me in a coconut shell.
That's great. I mean, the stories you tell, and I've read part of the book with my daughter. I got to tell you,
Got it. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, there's this one incident
I
that
got my first copy today.
You did? Oh, God.
I can't believe it. It's
okay, you guys, especially if you had kids, you got to get this book because it's very entertaining. It's very colorful. My daughter loves it. And it's just, it gives them a visceral kind of authentic look in life and other cultures, especially now with the pandemic and we can't travel the world. This is like a way to do it. Traveling, I love how you did that. Traveling through books and knowledge.
I wasn't expecting to plug my book, but I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it. I got my first. It's not out yet. It's only the ebook version is available, and so
you got the ebook.
But
real segue. How important it is for children to learn about the issues in the environment and stuff like that. We were having a conversation, and my husband one morning said to our little girl, "Oh, I just wish you wouldn't grow up. I wish you would just stay like this." And she goes, she's 4 years old. She goes, "But Daddy, I can go to the Fountain of Youth." And we're like, "What?" "Yeah, it's in Auntie Alison's book. I can go to the Fountain of Youth so I could stay like this forever."
That is so cute. Did she really? Did she like that chapter?
Yeah, she did. She did. And she hates plastic, and she hates plastic in oceans, and she hates marine animals, eating plastic. So that's her thing, is water. So I'm glad about that. But anyway, okay. So what about me? I'm the founder. My name is Claire Powers. I'm the founder of KINDOM. And I started about 3 years ago after the birth of my daughter. It's actually my second eco brand. I wanted to do something for the environment so that her and the rest of the future generations, all the babies in the world, can grow up in a better planet. And we're kind of like going backwards right now. So we really have to keep these conversations going, because I know we have people out there who are very well versed in sustainability and also sustainable fashion. And there are other people out there who are concerned more with the environment, but not really looking at it in the eyes of fast fashion or the fashion industry. So we're kind of like talking about this together to share the knowledge, you know what I mean, so to speak. So going back to Sustainable Development Goal 14, which is conserving and sustainably using the ocean, the seas, marine resources for sustainable development. Can you tell us, Alison, about your experiences in your travels? What have you seen?
Well,
Realm?
it's interesting. Again, just to to piggyback off the book, because you brought this to mind just now with the Himalayas. My journeys actually didn't even start really in the oceans, even though Hawaii was my home and always has been my home. My parents raised a mountaineer and got a surfer. And so I actually have an interesting story to begin with that it fascinates me. And it was kind of the beginning of my mind starting to think this way. When I was about 7, I was dreaming. You ready for this? So I'm traveling the whole world. I'm doing the coolest stuff that any kid could possibly imagine.
Yes.
I basically had my own elephants and camels, and not from a wealthy standpoint, just from living in the middle of nowhere in these tribes. And my one dream, you ready for this? My one dream was to go to school and have homework. That's all I wanted to do, because I would see it in like Disney movies, right? I don't want to do that. So we were in the middle of the Himalayas in a crazy snowstorm. I met this little Sherpa girl, and she said I could go to school with her. So Cliff Notes version of the story is basically they get up at 4 in the morning every morning to climb over this almost like 18,000 foot pass to go to school every morning.
Yes, I saw that in the book.
It's wild. That's one of the chapters. But what was amazing to me is when we got to the top of the pass before sunrise, they were all carrying these huge plastic water jugs. And I remember thinking, why the heck are these tiny little people like me carrying these massive jugs that are as big as them? And when we got to the top, they separated the jugs, and she handed me one side of them, and they plopped down in the hollow part of it, held the handle, and used them as sleds to go down the hill. And that at that moment was like, oh my goodness, you can repurpose something that you might normally throw away into something that could be an eco mode of transportation. And so ever since kind of that moment in the Himalayas, and then also growing up, in Indonesia, and where all these beaches are just getting plagued by plastic pollution, I really took that on as my cause. I sat on Naked and Afraid. How many people, sit on an island for a month with absolutely nothing to do?
I know.
Yeah, just like and I would watch plastic come from all over the world, right? Yeah. With labels from every country you could imagine. And so it's not just a US problem, it's not just an India problem, it's not just Australia, China, it's kind of all of us together. And so what I've seen being the main threats to the environment, of course, is plastic pollutions, toxic sunscreens, which I just helped with. And then, also some of the solutions is repurposing. And that's why I love, what you all are doing with different repurposing, helping people. This was like one program I started for those little kids. I went back to the Himalayas. This was actually with Patagonia originally, but it was called the Coat of Many Colors. So we would take the scrap, jackets that they left on the floor, and we'd sew them together. And I was able to give them to the Sherpa, children and their families to be able to survive the cold. And so I kind of started at this young age, really guided by my incredible parents that, never set out to be environmentalists. They just did what was necessary for survival, or to teach good things. So, I think overfishing is a problem. I think plastic pollution is a problem. I think toxic sunscreens, which we recently banned here in Hawaii. I made a film to help.
That's awesome.
Instrumental in the band. And so, I'm not a fashion expert, as you know, but I come from, if you see it, you believe it. And that's where I stand, of going to trash islands, seeing these apocalyptic masses of plastic and going, oh, maybe I should help do something. Surfboards are made out of recycled coffee cups. The bikinis I wear are made out of recycled plastic bottles. There's a microfiber issue, of course, with plastic, and that's a whole nother chat. But I think one step at a time, right? I think you can get really stressed out if you try to do everything.
Yes, it's the eco anxiety and the cancel culture going on. It's a lot, coupled with the pandemic and everything. So we just have to keep focus, and doing what we do. On the fashion end, and thank you for sharing your experiences. There's a guy, his name is, oh my God, I forgot. I saw it at True Cost. Anyway, he was born in the late 1800s, and he kind of like was the father of, advertising and marketing. And he came up with all this advertising and marketing concepts, very early, that to this day we are using. And to this day, this is what we ended up, having this problem. But they didn't know it back then. And what he said was, there are two kinds of products: those that are repeatedly used and those that are used up. like single use or disposables in our lingo today. And what consumptionism is about getting people to treat the things they use as the things they use up, like fast fashion. You know, fast fashion, the fashion industry is the second largest polluter in the world. That's what Eileen Fisher said during her acceptance speech at the Riverkeeper Environmental Awards. She was the recipient in 2015. We just have an acceleration of overproduction and overconsumption. Like the quantity of new garments bought tripled since the 1960s. At least 80 billion items of clothing are produced, consumed each year. And there's only, what, almost 8 billion people in the world? Now think about that math. You know, there's about 8 billion people in the world. We're producing 80 billion pieces of clothing, probably more now, because I don't know how dated that figure is from a couple years ago. So that means 10 million garments, 10 million for 10 billion for 8 billion people. That's like 10 garments per person a year, you know? And, you know, back in the day, you know, like in your 20s or in high school, you know, you want your newest, trendiest, you know, wardrobe for the next school year. And, you know, in your 20s, when you get your first job, I mean, that's that freedom, you know, you're just buying. We're caught in this nonstop, you know, wheel, you know, of overconsumption and overproduction. We're consuming 400% more than we consumed a few decades ago. And cheap clothing or fast fashion, because of the price and it's readily available and abundant, it just became disposable.
Gotta go with coconut shells.
That's the kind of disposable we want. Not, yes, which is biodegradable, you know, but we'll talk more about that. But that's kind of like the general in a nutshell in fashion. Now, yeah, I know. I wish we could walk around like that, but I don't know if you want to see the rest of my body after that, after having a kid. But anyway, I digress. So now that we know about the general impact of the fashion industry, which is a huge polluter, like I said,
right.
It specifically, we're going to go into how it affects soil, water, and air health. In your travels, can you tell me like specific instances, like maybe different cultures that you've worked with that you've seen the negative impacts of, you know, climate change and whatnot?
Yeah, well, I don't think we have to travel very far. I mean, I know, you know, I started out my TED Talk with a really powerful moment that I'd love to share, because to me, it just kind of sums it all up. When I was really little and we were building our home here in Hawaii, which also you got the Hawaii roots. And I think it's important to state that it's not just, it's happening right here in the US. And I think sometimes we can think, oh, over there has a problem, or these poor people in these remote areas. Of course, they're getting affected by what we're doing, but it's also happening right here in our own backyards. So when I was about like 5 or 6, we were building our home sweet, you know, Moana style home here, and getting to connect, you know, with it's one of the last Hawaiian fishing villages in the world. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The dolphin, the whales, the fish, the Finding Nemo's everywhere. And the Hawaiian elder came over to offer us some fresh fish, and I went running up to him and I'm like, guess what? He said, what? I said, I'm going to be the female Indiana Jones and I'm going to discover the greatest treasure on earth. And he was like, okay. And then I was like, wait, but you don't happen to know where that is, do you? And so long story short, he said, I do. You know, he's this wise Hawaiian fisherman with the wrinkles. And so that night, you know, I met him as the moon set and the coconut trees, and, you know, he made it all very mysterious. And I had my flashlight, my headlamp, my backpack. I was ready for the adventure of a lifetime. And he took me across the lava in front of our house. And as the moon set and the ocean was sparkling, he pointed it out and he said, that's your greatest treasure on earth. And I think, you know, my little 5-7-year-old mind, didn't quite get it at that moment. I was like, huh? But what I came to understand, and I get goosebumps, is of course, you know, our oceans and our world waters are the greatest treasure on earth. And to bring it back to your point of what I've seen, we've lost almost 50% of our reef systems here in Hawaii since 2011. And I'm not a scientist again, but you know, I've been able to run in these circles and learn a lot, swim in these circles and learn a lot.
Yeah.
So I dove into making a film to help ban toxic sunscreens because that was one of the lowest hanging fruit to make a difference for our reef systems. And you know, since then, my Hawaiian elder passed. Oh, I get choked up every time I think of this. But, you know, his one kind of ask to me, and this is why it makes it so personal, and I can tell you countless stories. This is just one individual in a culture around the world that said, you know, basically on his deathbed is, please help protect our reefs so the future families can have fish. So in his mind, that the future can eat. Because that's how he thinks. And so to dawn that on me and to pass it on to me and be like, this is the most important treasure. Now you have a responsibility to protect it. It doesn't just become like, oh, why are you buying that certain thing? It's like, well, if I buy this, this is going to hurt the reefs. Almost 70%, if not more, of our oxygen comes from the reefs. So even if you don't eat fish, it's pretty important that we protect our reef ecosystems. They're the rainforests of the sea. Anyway, so that's a very near and dear thing to my heart. But I mean, I've discovered mummies in Peru, and the significance of this mummy chief is pointing towards the importance of our world oceans and our world waters. Like I could go into so many just, you know, Indiana Jonesy, which is what I started out wanting to do, was uncover mysteries and do that sort of thing. And along the way wait, all these treasures I'm looking for, I'm missing the boat, literally the boat that floats on the ocean, and the oceans are important treasure. And so that's why I'm excited to see what you all are doing. And I think also women, I grew up in Peru. A lot of time my mom is a yoga teacher, my dad's, you know, legendary explorer, and Nilda was like my godmother, and she would wash me in little buckets growing up in the Peruvian village. And now she has, you know, the most famous, I think, weaving society of all time.
That's awesome.
In terms of Peru. And these were just women who would sit there in their Peruvian hats and their vegetable dyes and their ladybug dyes, you know, all the different elements come together to make. They'd sit there and I'd do the spindle and, you know, get the sheep and do the whole, and that was just normal life to me. And so I think giving women, now seeing her on main stage events, and I think even some of your products are being sourced from this area, if not these type of areas. I know you have all different kinds of cool things going. I'd actually like to hear about that, maybe especially for my viewers too. Like, what are you doing to work with women around the world, and especially tribal cultures, and helping support, well, not just women, but, you know.
Yes. Well, it's actually a big thing dear to my heart, which is helping indigenous tribes, because if we have any barometer of how the ecosystem is doing, it's the indigenous tribes. That's our surefire measuring system. Because us here in the middle of the pandemic, you know, if you have the means, you can get your groceries delivered. You don't have to go out there and fish. You don't have to milk a cow. You don't have to, like, you know, do anything, go hunting, you know, in the forest or anything, because it's so convenient now. We have supermarkets, you know, we have restaurants. We don't think like that. We were not born into that kind of worldview or situation. So in working closely with the tribes in these last few years, sorry, my orchid is falling off my ear. 1 second, technical difficulties. Flower power. You know, I've spoken to them in the last few weeks, because usually I visit them 1 to 2 times a year. And, you know, I've asked them, you know, how are you guys doing and whatnot. And there's 3 main tribes that I work with. And I had to write this down, because it's kind of, you're going to be shocked. Everybody, you guys are going to be shocked. First of all, I work very closely with the Yakan tribe in Basilan. The Philippines, as a background, it's a very special country. It's the only country in the world with 7,000 islands composed in this whole country. So before there were planes and cars and bridges that, you have no way but to circumnavigate, and navigate with boats, just like the ancient Polynesians, right? So Basilan, and this island is surrounded by water. It's in the one of the islands, southernmost tip of the Philippines, close to Indonesia. It's got the Basilan Strait in the north, Sulu Sea in the northwest, Moro Gulf in the northeast, the Celeb Sea in the south and southeast. So it's literally an island around water. So of course, what is going to be their main source of income and food supply? It's agriculture or the ocean, right? So the issue with them right now, and they have told me very recently, like in the last couple of weeks, is that they have a problem with dynamite fishing. Okay, I'm like, what's going on? I thought they were banned. You know what I mean? All countries, the United Nations, this is banned. But when you think about indigenous cultures or even around them, marginalized residents in their area living in poverty, when the fish supply is declining, and there's nothing else. I mean, in 1970, the Philippine National Statistics Board, in 1970, the average daily catch was 45 pounds of fish. 45 pounds, nice, very nice, right? By the year 2000, the average daily catch of fish was 4.5. So it went down significantly, and that was 2000. Now, 10 years later, can you imagine? There's nothing left. Yeah, so what they're doing, they're getting desperate to feed their families. They're making these homemade dynamites, and they're like destroying a bunch of fish at the same time, along with, I wish I could, I'd show you the pictures of the coral reefs that are blasted, but it kills not only the fish, but destroys the ecosystem, the biodiversity, and the entire food chain within a blast area that sometimes can go up to a 50 or 100 meter radius, and it's very indiscriminatory. So
I have any pictures of that. Yeah, it's pretty scary. What's happening.
And it's not only that area. It's all over. The country is trying to implement the laws with their local governments, and they're trying the best they can. But like us, the reason when there's not enough resources and not enough incentives or solutions to the problem, it's going to keep going. That's like a bigger discussion. In another tribe in the Iranon of Cotabato, which is also in the southern part of the Philippines, they don't do dynamite fishing. They do, are you sitting down? They do electrofishing. Like, what the hell is electrofishing? Well, that's what exactly it sounds like. It's like they're electrocuting the fish, those poor fish.
We're eating those. Okay.
And actually, electrocuting fish, it's common in the scientific world for educational purposes and research, with only a certain voltage or very little electrical current. But these people around the world have managed to take that opportunity, in a desperation for survival for their families, and increase that voltage or that electrical current to stun the fish. And what it results to is a lot of medical issues, when you get electrocuted, that eventually zaps the brain, they lose oxygen, and they just float, okay? Those two are man-made phenomenon, right? And that kills everything else because of the decline of fish supply and the climate change, what we're doing to the environment, the acidification of the ocean and everything. But this one, the next one I'm going to tell you, the last one, is very interesting. It's a natural phenomenon, okay? In the recent years, it's kind of also had a man-made cause to it too. The Tiboli tribe of Lake Cebu, also in the southern part of the Philippines, they live in a freshwater lake. Used to be a volcano. I keep hitting my thing. Anyway, the lake is about 700 meters, or about 24,000 feet above sea level, or 700 meters up. It's not that big, covers about 1.5 square miles, but very, very good resources, and their water resources, the groundwater, there's 7 waterfalls, a beautiful, beautiful area. I slept in a hut, the breeze, I mean, it was gorgeous. There were 5, I fell asleep, I was so tired, I was enjoying the day. Apparently, instead of lights, they have lights, but fireflies come, you know, as your light. Kind of awesome. Anyway, so one of the tribal artisans, the weavers that I work with, she said she's very worried because they had this, and I hope I'm going to be saying it right. They have this event called the Komahong. And the Komahong is a fish kill event. That happens usually once every few years, every 5 years, back in the day. Back in the day. And what it is that, you know, the indigenous tribes think of it as a blessing from the gods to bless them with abundance of fish, and they just basically die and just float up the water. They don't know the cause because they're not scientists, right?
Right.
But lately, the Kamahong, instead of happening every 5 years, there was a study that I was reading actually just last night that the occurrence of mass die-off in the fish in the lake is happening up to, she said, 2 to 3 times a year, and the study says up to 5 times a year. Well, what's causing that? You know, so I read it some more, and basically what it is oxygen depletion. They're doing some fish farming in the area, so they kind of, you know, the lake is only so big. So when you put, it's kind of like, think of it as in a city, population control. You know, when you put so many living things like fish or people in an area, eventually, you know, the resources are going to be very limited. It's not like you can ration oxygen to the fish. Okay, you get this much, you get this much. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. So they're losing oxygen because of the increase of fish population that they're trying to farm, because it's depleting, right, everywhere else. So they're farming more. And because of the climate change, the weather patterns have been erratic, and it's also affecting the rainy season and the temperature of the lake. And because that's affected, you know, more algae is being produced, and algae, when they die off, it, you know, depletes oxygen too. So it's just so many things, just so many things. So we're all interconnected, we're kin. So yeah, that's like the big thing with the fish supply in these indigenous cultures. Now, you know, like what we can do about it, you know, it's a bigger discussion, you know, with governments, and where people like you come in to spread the message, and like what you did with the sunscreen in Hawaii, you know, making sure that the laws are in place where you only use certain sunscreen that are good for the reefs. It's like it's a bigger conversation. I mean, have you experienced anything like that? Like how was Trash Island? You know, speaking of water.
I know, if we're not depressed already, let's get more depressed.
I know.
You know, well, I was trying to see if I had any fish. This is Trash Island. Pretty wild, but basically there is a trash island everywhere we go, just like there's a fish problem in many places that we go. They burn the trash, you know.
Yes.
It's pretty insane. And the thing is that it's not just like a Maldivian issue. There's these gyres, and I know this is backwards maybe for you, but there's gyres all over the world. So just like there's, you know, a problem with fish in certain areas from what you're saying, lack of oxygen or pollution, plastic will gather coming on currents from all over the world. I think some staggering thing, like only 9% of plastic worldwide is recycled. I'd have to make sure that's the exact facts. Yeah. But that's, you know, what, and a lot of people, you know, say, well, why are sunscreens an issue? Why is plastic an issue? Well, first of all, plastic has BPA in it. There's a lot of studies showing, like, I think it said something like 96% of Americans age 6 and older have BPA in their system, which they're also
crazy
cancer.
Yes.
So toxic sunscreens. You know, I think a lot of people listening are probably like, well, what do I do? How do I know if it's toxic? You want to make sure that it says non-nano, and it has to say reef safe, and it has to say organic, and not just reef safe. And you want to look for any big O words. That's my way of knowing if it says like oxybenzone or any of the big O words that you can't pronounce, you can't spell, and you can never remember again.
That's good to know.
Yeah, just don't use it. You know, mineral sunscreens, you want to start and think if it's killing the reef, like think what it's doing to your skin.
Yes,
yeah, you have to be real careful. And then, you know, with plastics, of course, it's an issue with the fish as well, because they say by 2050 there'll be more plastic than fish in the ocean.
Yes.
And when the fish eat the plastic and we eat fish, if you eat fish, and a lot of, you know, I think 2/3 of the world's food source comes from the ocean. Got to check on that, man. I'm a little rusty after my TED talk, and I know things keep changing, but the ocean controls the world's climates. I mean, there's a lot, whether it's food source that the ocean provides, oxygen, weather. Plastic is putting a big throwing a big wrench in the game there with the ocean survival, which means our survival, because if the oceans die, we die.
Yes.
But you know, I don't think of it from this point of like, we're all gonna die. I'm sitting here in like a pink frilly dress with a pink surfboard and like a coconut bra and a globe. I inspire kids a lot, so you know, I feel like I'm at my hello everyone, welcome.
That's fun. It's a fun thing. You have to inspire, yes.
Today we're going. No, but you know, and so the reason that I take that route is I think the only way you can make positive change is through positivity. And so I have a hard time with all the doomsday, you know, of course you have to show it. And that's what I wanted to do in my book, also to inspire and educate through entertainment. And I think through entertainment is key. And so that's why I love, you know, your Hawaiian message. You got the Hawaiian patterns, you got the bright pinks, you got the fun stuff, because if we're not, you have planets, you have like a solar system on one of your dresses. I was cracking up. And so, you know, if you don't have the fun, the love, the aloha, that's what I was taught growing up. And yes, I'm aloha. And yes, but I can still spread the aloha, and I still, you know, didn't even know I thought, you know, I was little here growing up doing hula with all the Hawaiian girls, and I just thought, you know, I was one of the tribes. So to me, Hawaii and nature and all of that is very important to protect. And I think we can't do that unless we share positivity. So I would just encourage everyone, instead of being like, oh, we're all going to die, so don't even think about it, just what are the simple things that we can do every day? If it's buying a dress from you or someone who's doing some more sustainable fashion, and the price points aren't that different anymore. A lot of things are changing. And I think that's what people need to understand too, is if you get something of more quality, it'll last for forever instead of forever 21. No, I'm kidding. Instead of a short a lifespan. You know, if you buy a reusable water bottle, then you're going to use this for a long time. You're not going to be buying water bottles every day. And so I think there's this conception is it's really expensive to be sustainable. It's really expensive to go slow fashion or organic. But it might take a little bit more research in the beginning, but once you get it wired, you're going to end up saving so much over your lifetime, that I think it's not, that can't really be it. But there are, you know, you're a mom, you're busy, you're going wild right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic and we can't ignore that. And I think that there's sometimes you just can't stress about it. And if a restaurant says, you know, we're keeping our elders safe, we have to do plastic bags right now, do we all get mad, or do we try to come together and help? And, you know, you say, hey, I have a clothing company, I can donate, you know, 150 reusable little tote sacks for you to get off, because they're a restaurant right now just trying to survive. So I think until we give people alternatives, we can't just make everyone wrong and bad, because even with these tribes people, you can't say, well, don't overfish or don't electrocute, don't dynamite, because they're just trying to survive. So until we provide sustainable options here on my soapbox, which I'm not capable of doing single-handedly, which is why it's beautiful that, you know, girls are coming together, people are coming together to try to do that. But all I know is, you know, before I got on here, I went and checked the solar power with my papa to make sure that my coconut Wi-Fi would work. And they were walking their talk more than anybody that I've ever known. They live off the grid. We pick off the garden, and, you know, a lot of, oh, is it expensive to live in Hawaii? Well, it depends on how you do it. We worked the land and cleared the thorn bushes and made everything, you know, from the ground up. Can everybody do this? No. Can everybody compost easily? Heck yes. It's super easy. You know, you can put food waste in your freezer until you want to throw it out. It doesn't smell up your house. And then you can compost and put it on your plants. You know, there's all of this, isn't a plug, but on my Alison's Adventures YouTube, which is all free, you can go watch. I do things to help explain how to be more sustainable, or through the book, but it's all through fun, really exciting adventures. And so that's, I think if we can find inspiration in the positivity and in the aloha, it won't make it so foreign and hard to do. You don't have to survive naked on an island to, you know.
And thank you for that, because really, I mean, I'm glad it's free, and I'm glad we're doing stuff like this, because we're just really at a starting point. This movement, Extinction Rebellion, climate change, you know, everything is we're just literally at the starting point, and we have to keep talking about it until, you know, it's ingrained in everybody that, oh, okay, this is just a lifestyle, just this is how you do it. You know, we have to change that. So thank you again. So now your question about specifically about fashion, now that we've talked about the general issues, you know, with the ocean and climate change and how it's affecting the health of our oceans and whatnot, let me talk about like fashion 101 kind of, because there are viewers out there who are very well versed, and then there's some they're just getting to know, like, what can I do? Like you said, what can I do? We don't have to do this whole cancel culture thing, you know. It's just about education and the little things we can do that we can build up. First of all, the fashion industry, it's very toxic for the soil, the water, and the air in so many different ways. One of them is materials. And let's start with the chemicals and processing, and like the pesticides in the crops. For example, natural materials like cotton, linen, and flax, they're made from natural plants. Of course, they're biodegradable, that's great, but it uses vast amount of water. And as we know, you know, our water, it's already getting, you know, infused with microplastics. And there's a lot of people out there, I don't have the statistics right now, but there's a lot of people, according to the World Health Organization, that are just billions, that they don't have access to drinking water, even clean water. That's where, you know, movements like Charity Water comes in. I thank them and all the other people and organizations to, you know, to make sure that people have drinking water and clean water.
Yeah.
The use of chemicals in cotton, for instance, in other natural crops, it's 18% of worldwide pesticide use for the fashion industry, and 25% of worldwide insecticide use in the fashion industry. That's from the movie True Cost. If you haven't seen it yet, people, if you haven't seen it yet, watch it.
Wow.
And so then that's why with KINDOM and, you know, all these sustainable brands, we're trying to get away from using materials like conventional cotton and use organic cotton. Now, what is organic cotton? It doesn't use pesticides, those harmful pesticides and insecticides, I mean, and you know, and some of them, some farms, they're actually, this is the exciting part, they're using more efficient systems of watering their crops. They're actually studying the weather patterns and, you know, using it that way instead of like irrigation and whatnot. They're just supplementing with that, but they're using the natural cycle of, you know, evaporation, condensation, precipitation. I know this because I had to do it for school with my daughter, you know, for, you know, that kind of thing, right? So it's great. It reduces our water resources. Now, there's also the second material is cellulose. That's your rayons, your bamboo, your hemp, your viscose, your lyocells. And they're made from natural resources. They are biodegradable. They conserve water. They're not thirsty, super thirsty like cotton and other natural fibers. But in the processing of bamboo and modal and rayon and lyocell, they have to take the pulp, like sometimes the wood pulp, and they have to put it in chemical solvents in order to process it into fiber. So that's not good. You know, it's like nothing is absolutely pure unless you run around naked, right? So anyway, that's beside the point. So what can be done with that? So consumers, if you're out there, try to get, in the cellulose materials world, try to get things like Tencel or lyocell, what they do is they, what is it called? They regenerate. Hold on, I'm gonna look at my notes real quick and I need reading glasses. They recover and reuse the solvents, the chemical solvents, instead of dumping it into the earth or the soil or the water system. They reuse it for the next batch. You know what I mean? So that's great. It's a little bit more expensive, or maybe can be a lot more expensive depending on the quality, but that's kind of like in the KINDOM brand, that's what we're trying to move towards, because right now we're using bamboo, which is very, you know, conservative with the water. It's so much better than cotton. It's basically a grass. It grows like weeds, you know, it's pretty, looks nice, you know, it's awesome, you know, very good, you know, abundant supply. But again, in the processing, there's those chemicals used. So we're trying to get away from that, but at least it's better than your regular rayon. You know what I mean? And then there's the villains of the material world, which is the synthetics, the polyesters, nylons, acrylics, which are basically essentially from oil, right? Made of oil, processed with coal. It takes a lot of energy. Although it's cheaper than natural fibers and it lasts a long time, for 100 years to 1,000, few hundred years to 1,000 years, why are we making it disposable? Why are we making anything disposable made of a material like that can last for 100 to 1,000 years? Beats me. It has a lot of emissions because it's a chemical process to create the material. So there's like air pollution, that's releasing 2 to 3 times more carbon emissions than cotton. In the finished products, as you know, when you wash it in the washing machine or even by hand, when it goes to the water system, it releases microfibers. And in 2018, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but in 2018, there was a study that found microfibers in human stool. So we're ingesting it. We're ingesting it already, right? And then in 2019, just last year, there was a study from a scientist. It was in Colorado in the mountains, studying rainfall, right? And what he found surprised him, because, you know, he was totally, it was out of his mind. But what he saw under the microscope was microplastics in rainfall. So it's already infiltrated the system. How are we going to stop it? We can't, got to clean it up. But there are solutions. There are solutions, because I also reclaim and use recycled poly in my line. Like this t-shirt, water is life, which I did with Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii. I love them. Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii. Thank you for cleaning up the beaches. They just did a beach cleanup yesterday. This is from half organic cotton, half rPET, which is recycled poly from plastic bottles. Now, to stop the microplastic from going in the ocean, you can use these, oh, did I send you one yet? These eco wash bags? Oh no, I gotta send you one. Girl, I'll send you one. And I'm actually doing a giveaway right now for eco wash. For those of you watching, go on the post from a couple days ago on Friday and join in to win an eco wash bag and an outfit of your choice. Okay. Anyway, these eco wash bags, Guppy Friend is one, Patagonia uses it. That's how I found out about it in the first place. And we found another manufacturer of eco wash bag, Loose. Dorig, hi, hello. They're awesome. Same quality, same exact quality. When you wash your stuff in it, your synthetics, I wish I kept my stuff, but anyway, it prevents the microfibers from being released in the ocean. And the exciting thing that I just saw in another live stream earlier this morning is there's a couple companies called Planet Care and also Xeros, Xeros. They're developing, or already have developed, microfiber filters for your washing machine. And the lady from Planet Care, she's amazing. She's working with the French government, you know, to institute laws for a circular economy, kind of like what you did with Hawaii with the sunscreens, and doing like a complete overhaul. And part of it is that by 2025, the proposal is that all washing machines will be required to be equipped with these microfiber filters. You can buy them now. I don't know how easy it is to install. I'm going to check it out after this because I just found out about them. I have to talk to my husband because he's, you know, he's going to be the one doing it. Anyway, these are going to be great because then the bags only can hold so much.
Right.
There are a couple of sizes, but then if you have a lot of like polyesters, like if you're very active, you know, you can't get away with it. You know, you have, you know, your spandex, your leggings, your active wear, your workout, your yoga, you know, for your mom, right? It's, you have to put it in there to keep the microfibers from being released in the ocean. So that's exciting stuff. That's exciting stuff.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. So that's just the materials, you know?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What have us humans done, right? Now we're having to go backwards to, oh,
I know.
It's so wild, but yeah. Hey, at least, you know, if this whole pandemic has taught me one thing, and I again feel horrible for how my family's been affected for it, for how everybody else's family. I mean, there's been a lot of, I'm not just living here in like butterfly land. We've also had you know, it's been a roller coaster for sure, and I know for many people around the world it's been incredibly tough, but it has also showed what we can do so quickly to change, or what will make us change so quickly, right? I mean, within a matter of like a week, the world was upside down, and yes, our environment is getting a rest in some places. I mean, they closed the beach where I live for the first time in my life for months. And the coral started looking happier. And I'm not saying I'm happy that this is not good that it happened due to a pandemic, of course, but it shows that how quickly we can make change. And I think it also shows what can happen if something gets in our waterways. Like,
yes.
Oh, I mean, this is a virus, right? What if a human body can only survive 4 days without water, and something gets in our waterways that's microscopic?
Yes.
Guys, we're in trouble. The whole world could go down, you know. I mean, so those were two things that opened my eyes, is how quickly we could make change if we wanted to, if the government, you know, was behind us. And I'm not saying that the government isn't behind it. You know, if we just went quicker, a lot of the governments are trying to do good things. I think that there's a lot of nonprofit. There's so many people out there trying to do good things. We just kind of like got to get on the same canoe. Got to have a board meeting.
You gotta have a board meeting on your recycled surfboard.
BYOC, bring your own coffee cup. We'll make a board. But also just the fact of kind of how scary that is. You know, that was the number one thing that I learned growing up in all these survival situations, is that the thing that's going to kill you is not the big tiger in the room. It's the tiny little, metaphorically, you know, the little thing that you aren't going to see that's probably going to get in your water source or affect you. And so that's what this has taught me. And I think hopefully has maybe woken the world up to a little bit of like how important not only our health is, but the health of the planet to keep us alive, the health of the animals, the health of everything to work, you know, in harmony with each other.
Yes.
Or we're not going to be able to keep dancing. And speaking of dancing, I mean, this is, you know, it's just, I've had so many realizations this time. And how often are you stuck at home, right? Like I hopped on TikTok at first making fun of it, and now I'm getting millions and millions and millions of views on TikTok, of all places. I know it's controversial right now with the banning and the whole thing, but just metaphorically speaking, it's amazing how social media has become a new form of like ancient storytelling, right? In the olden days, you'd sit around a fire and the tutu, the grandma, the elders would tell you stories of how to pass on information. Well, now I can go on TikTok and with the click of a mouse be like, hey guys, here I am on, you know, this is the reefs that are dying. Check this out. Here's the sunscreen you can use. And it's going all over the world. And now kids and families and everyone being like, whoa, I can do this and I can help that. And so I don't think we should underestimate the power of technology and all these big businesses in a good way to utilize it to bring back, like you're saying, people are coming out with products, people are coming out with, because if we don't have capitalism, if we don't have business, we can't all just like live in grass, you know, skirt, like it's just not a reality anymore, as much as I'd like that. Not a reality. So I've been having fun on my TikTok, sharing it with kids and really just being amazed at how engaged the future generations are and how they want to
Yes.
help, want to learn.
Yes, I've seen it in the news. It's they're making changes, and I have faith, and I'm very happy that they're on the right track. They're on the right track.
It's exciting. It's funny. I never thought I never thought, right, that this would be happening from our world. But again, you just never know what's going to happen the next day. And I think, you know, right now everybody just needs to take a step back, and no matter whether you're depressed, you have anxiety, you're living life at large right now because you don't have to work, or you're a stressed out mom at home with your kids, I think it's like a moment that, what if you shifted it and someone said to you, look, I'm going to give you a month, I'm going to give you 2 months where you don't have anything to think about but you and your future, and reinventing a new future for yourself and your family. And you know what I mean? Like, I try to think of that being, we're literally on lockdown here in Hawaii. It might seem like paradise. It was a little scary at first, like when trade routes were maybe getting cut off and we were like, okay, what's going to happen?
Yeah, you're very remote.
You're very remote. But I took it as, okay, well, I'm being handed a retreat to think about what do we need to survive, and what do we need to do to our world. Not a retreat like I'm sipping pina coladas in the hammock. I mean, a metaphoric retreat of from the daily life of the grind that we've all been on for so long. What can we stop and think about right now during this time, so that going forward we can have like a new normal?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and thank you for all your videos. I haven't gone through all of them yet. It's a very valuable education. And I think what we can take away from this is that knowing now the visceral and kind of, you know, the visual effects that you can see from the front lines in the eyes of the indigenous tribes and other places that you've traveled, what can we do? What are the lessons here? You know, you've got to buy responsibly, try to go zero waste. You know, we talked about the different materials, what to look for. We didn't even touch on upcycling or anything. That's like another thing for later. So, you know, your people are armed with some knowledge. I hope after this, they can go on your website to learn more, or they can go on the KINDOM website to learn more. Yours is www.alisonsadventures.com.
Alison's Adventures!
And ours is www.kindom.com. No, I'm sorry, KINDOM Shop. www.kindomshop.com. There's an About Me section which talks about the different materials. There's some videos on there too. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to DM us on our Instagram or emails through the website. Yours is at Alison's Adventures, and for us, it's at KINDOM Shop. And we're also on Facebook. We're everywhere because we want to get the word out. So I want to thank you again for taking the time. Please tell your parents aloha, and one of these days I'm gonna go visit. Okay, I'm gonna go visit you. Yeah.
Well, and I, you know, the last thing I would tell everyone is maybe step off social media too for a minute and go outside, and don't give a coconut bottom about any of this.
Yes.
Climb a tree, jump in the ocean, watch a bird. Like, everyone who's been quarantined, I think, has a whole new appreciation for nature.
Yes.
And when you get goosebumps, when you go in that nature, think about it being gone. And
yes. Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like, if you
I can't imagine.
You know, we've all been stuck inside, and I'm lucky to live off the grid here, but like, what if we didn't have that? So if you care about nature and you want to feel that rush of a waterfall or that love for the beach, that's where my drive comes from. And so I would just say, you know, go jump in the ocean and don't think so much about life. And if you can, or take a walk or sit by a window and breathe fresh air, and then your appreciation for that will come in, and you'll want to protect what you love.
Yes, absolutely. We gotta, you know, keep that promise to the elder about protecting the treasure, which is water is life. Next time we're gonna do karaoke too, okay?
I got my hairbrush ready.
Believe it.
Okay, we're definitely been in quarantine too long.
Yeah. Okay.
Love
all right.
it.
Thank you. Aloha. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and stay tuned. For more updates, subscribe to the newsletter. Check out Alison's social media. Check out our social media and website. And hope you go out there and live a sustainable life.
Hello.
Bye.